Welcome to Trulyfit, the online fitness marketplace connecting pros and clients through unique fitness business software.
Mia, thanks for joining the Trulyfit Podcast. Can you give the audience a bio, a background on your fitness?
I can. So thanks so much for having me. Fitness has been my reason for being for my entire life. You hear a lot of people say, it's just kind of what I've done my whole life, but it's what I've done my whole life. My mom was a Canadian triathlete. So I spent my entire childhood traveling around Ontario, watching her win races. It was kind of this ongoing joke that we wouldn't just go watch mom compete, we would go watch her win. So that just kind of was like the running, athletics, getting outside. My dad was extremely active. He was a former OPP officer. So he was a recruit for all the new police officers coming into the OPP. And so it was his job to be in tip-top shape, and he always led by example. So that was kind of my roots. This was the background that I had. And so from a very young age, our values were get outside, enjoy being active. We always packed a lunch everywhere we went. And so we just moved. And so from my personal experience, that was how fitness was introduced to us. We always went on hikes. We had snowboarding and ski passes. We were always swimming. So it was always something that was fun for me. When I was in grade 5, I had a sports sports project. We had to go get a newspaper. So my mom had this genius idea that we were going to run to the corner store every single week to get the newspaper. And running was like not my thing. It was not something that I like woke up every morning being excited to do. But I thought, what the heck? I get to spend time with my mom. So we would go down to this corner store every single Wednesday, which was maybe like a 5-minute jog. And then the beach was right by there. So we'd go to the beach, go for a swim. And that's how I got started. So years down the line, I ended up competing in varsity track and field in university. And then I was a competitive blind guide runner for a blind athlete on the Canadian Paranational team. And so it just kind of morphed into, I slowly took after my mom's footsteps and had this vision, because she had this amazing Canadian tracksuit that she would wear because she was on Team Canada. So I had this vision of getting my own. So eventually I was able to do that, competed, traveled, all over North America. And it was an incredible experience. And so it just kind of has been part of my life, literally since birth. I was running with my mom before I was even born. So it's just always been a part of my journey.
How does that blind guide runner thing work? That's really interesting. Are they holding on to you? Do you have to be just as fast as them because you don't want to be too fast, right?
It depends on, so there's different criteria. There's different classifications for guide running. Some athletes are completely blind. Some athletes are partially blind. So then that puts them in different class. The athlete that I ran with, she was a dear friend of mine. We already competed in the same group track club together. And so she needed a new guide. She was partially blind. So what that meant was some run tethered. So they literally run with their hands joined. It's an amazing feat to watch if you've never witnessed it in real life. Her and I just ran side by side. So I make sure I give cues to her, make sure she doesn't step out on any lines, cause any line violations. And then at the very end of the race, I have to make sure that she crosses the line before me. So you have to be in way better shape than your athlete. And these athletes are already in tip-top shape, right? So it was a lot of pressure. But the first experience that I had, she came to me and said, I need somebody to run with me. Is this something you'd be interested? And I thought, sure, it was something within my wheelhouse already. And she goes, the first track camp, the training camp that we have to go to is in Australia in a couple of weeks. Do you think you can make it?
Wow.
And so I thought, okay, well, I was working as a trainer at the time for a corporate gym. And I said, either I'm going to get fired or they're going to let me go. And sure enough, I had to create this entire form of how am I going to make, take care of my clients, et cetera, but I was gone. So that was my first experience, 3 weeks at Sydney Olympic Park, running, sleeping, eating, being in the sun. And it was the most incredible experience.
Yeah. And that changes running, which obviously, except for relays, is typically an individual sport, to a true team sport, right? They're really relying upon you. And, if you're running and you lose, it's on you. But if you have a partner who's guiding you and making sure that you have no violations and things of that nature, I mean, it puts a whole nother level of stress on there that I couldn't fathom.
Yeah. And I mean, it was really cool at the time because guide running, it's always been a thing, but there was certain team members on my team that were really kind of leading the charge in this. So for example, if you won gold, if your athlete won gold at the Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games, or a national championship, your guide didn't get a medal. When in reality, you were very much a team. You work together. This happens because you make this happen together. So they pushed forward, and by the end of my time on the team, both parties were getting a medal. So both the athlete and the guide runner. So it was a really, really cool time. I was one of the only women that I knew of that was guide running at the time. So that was interesting, constantly having to keep up with the guys. But I think it's something that's evolved significantly over time, but it was really eye-opening, and it was an honor truly to be able to be a part of somebody else's dream. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's really cool. I can tell you when we get done with this conversation, I'm going to Google it and look it up because I'm intrigued to see how it works, like visually, what exactly is going on. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us exactly where you're located and then what is going on pandemic wise. And we'll get into MoveCamp, but how do you, or I should say not you, how do local businesses in the fitness industry circumvent the issues right now going on with the pandemic and the restrictions placed on you?
I think everybody's different. I always talk about, I have such an incredible team that helped make our project possible. And my event planner, years ago when we launched, it was raining one day out for our event. So we run these national events, started on Parliament Hill here in Ottawa, Canada's capital. So we started these events on our front government lawns of the country. And it was an incredible experience. And there was one day where it was raining. And I remember, this is new for us, right? We had just started these events. It was raining outside. It's like, do people show up? I have this mindset at the track practice, like you're outside. If it's raining, you're outside, you're getting soaked, like you just prepare for it. But I just wasn't sure. So I remember talking to her that morning, our events are at lunch, and she was like, yeah, no, we don't cancel. And that has been the mindset literally ever since. We have absolutely not one time ever canceled an event. So when the pandemic hit, we had a week and a half to turn around our entire programming. So we're in our 7th year. So 7 years of outdoor events. We had a week and a half to turn it around. So I spent a lot of time crying in my bed and then had this mentality of we don't cancel. And so I can't speak for everybody. There's been a lot of amazing practitioners that I've been following here just in my local city of what they've been doing and how they've been managing it. And I think it's amazing hearing people's stories and listening to people's vulnerability and getting their message out and telling us what's really going on, especially with small businesses. I mean, I'm sure you can relate. It's a different experience for us. We're in a very different boat. A lot of people, there's different support for different organizations. When it comes to small business, it's like we're on an island on our own right now. But as soon as it hit, it was like, okay, that same mindset, that message that came from my event planner all those years ago was like, we don't cancel. How do we uplift our community? And now it is our duty, our responsibility to get in front of our community and keep them going. So we, just like everybody else, transitioned online and just kept, without being blindly optimistic, working within our parameters, kept this mentality where we're not canceling. We're not done. We're not closing the doors. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to constantly assess this every single day and see what's going on. We're going to be mindful of how it's affecting everybody else. We're going to kind of ride loose and not have any expectations. But we've not stopped. We've transitioned online, all of our events. They run nationally. We were able to double our community and double our coaching community as well. And it's actually kind of, in some ways, as weird as it is, been a blessing because we're able to reach a lot more people. So again, it depends who you talk to, but this is the mentality that we're taking on. And we are going to be outdoors this summer. I don't care if we're in front of 5 people. This is how we're going to operate. And we're just, every day we're trying to stay present. It's definitely made me ground myself even more. Because you never know how it's going to turn out,
Yeah. And that's all you can do. You have to adjust and adapt. And I don't mean to minimize the seriousness by like giving this analogy, but if you're a trainer and you go in the gym and you plan to use the cable machine that day and someone else is on the cable machine, well, guess what? You have to adjust and adapt. You're not going to say, I'm not going to work out anymore. Find a way, whether you're working out yourself or whether you're training your client, to find the next modality to use. And for most of us, it was hopping online. If you already had a presence online, which I did, just a small one though, it sort of, you already had a leg up, right? It could help expedite what you had going. And if you didn't have a presence online, it was scary. I mean, I have a lot of friends and mentors in the fitness industry who are in their 50s and 60s. And the online game to them was something they thought they never had to get into because they've built up enough word of mouth and local kind of presence. But they had no choice given the pandemic, and they had to adjust and adapt. And the outside training definitely helps. I know that's a lot of what MoveCamp does, as opposed to being indoors. So
yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. And I mean, I always feel like you can either have a grievance or you can have a miracle. You can either stay in that place of sorrow, and trust me, there was weeks where I was so devastated, but you can either stay there, or you can say like, what's good about this? How can I move forward? And I think it's amazing that we've all had to up our tech game. Like we have a conference at the end of every year, and that's gone completely virtual. And it's actually, I love it. This year when we ran it, we had no idea what we were doing and how we were going to put this thing together, but our team stepped up in the most incredible ways. And now we have this entire platform. Now we're going to be a virtual and an in-person event for our MoveCamp movement sessions. So it's really, like I said, it's been a blessing in some ways, and it's really forced us to grow. And that's the place that we choose to hang out in is, what's the silver lining? What ways has this benefited us?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what shakes out a year from now, 2 years from now, and how these businesses have adapted and who really took advantage of it. I know that for a long time, people thought of online training and the online fitness space as just people trying to scale up, right? That was their only goal, just trying to scale up in sort of a personal profit way. But I don't believe that's the case. And if you can reach more people and your goal is to help people like it is through MoveCamp, that means more people get helped, right? So that it's not a scalability like I'm going to make more money. It's scalability as in I'm going to reach more people and then therefore reach my goals.
And I think that that's one of the most incredible things to come out of this is the opportunity, just for us alone anyways. We moved into, to move into a new city, to launch an event in a new city takes about 2 years of planning and progress and networking. So we launched 3 new cities. So we were in 6 cities in one summer because of the internet, so it's totally catapulted our ability to be in front of more people and serve more Canadians with the project that we founded and that we work with. So I think if you stay in that space and you'll just keep attracting more of that and you'll be able to serve more people. And I think that's what it's all about.
Well, we touched on it a little bit, but let's describe and define exactly what MoveCamp is, what your goals are, and what your day-to-day is like in working in MoveCamp.
So I was telling you about the team, and so being on the national team, that ended, and I decided to continue with my own training. So I hired my own coach, and then I found myself before practice or before a meet finding every single excuse under the sun not to go. There was many times where I'd sit at the steps of my house and just cry my eyes out because I was so burnt out and I didn't love it anymore. And so one, begged the question, why do it? I had wrapped up my entire worth in this sport, the time on the clock, the practices, what my body looked like, how good I was, all of that. If that was on point, that meant I'm good. That meant I was worthy. And so that just snowballed, and not in a good way. I pushed myself. I trained way too much. I was not listening to what was going on in my body. I was working when I first started out easily as a trainer, 12, 13-hour days. And then I was training 3 hours at the track. And just was completely not sustainable. And so there was one day where I was in the bathroom and I was looking at myself in the mirror and I kind of caught myself and found a lump in my throat. And I always say, everybody has their journey and a story, but lumps are something that literally make you stop dead in your tracks. You're like, that's not normal. That can't be there. That's not part of my body. And so I ended up going to the doctors, and it was thyroid cancer. And so this was something, telling my family was really difficult because, they were saying, you're the healthiest person I know. And I'm going, am I? if this doesn't happen to quote unquote healthy people, So I went through that journey, and it really made me assess and look and see, if this can happen to me, it can literally happen to anybody. I'm well-versed, I'm educated, I'm trained in this area. I'm a health and wellness practitioner myself. So if this can catch me, then it can catch anybody, especially people who don't have the opportunities to grow up in the family that I did to teach me these health practices. And so we talk about serving. That's all I wanted to do. It was just this breaking point where I was like, we have to reach more people. We have to talk to more people. We have to be in front of more people. And I need to get this message across. It was a knowing it was coming from inside. And it was like, this was always going to come to be. It was just a matter of me opening my eyes and finally being able to see it. And so at the time I was bringing my clients up onto Parliament Hill, and I was teaching them running, and we were doing running clinics and stuff. And it kind of came to me as a voice of, how come no one's ever done a workout on the hill? How come there was yoga and there's like, I was doing running clinics and stuff, but there was never this mass gathering of people to move their bodies. And so Samantha, my event planner, and I had no idea what that concept meant at the time. I was living in my best friend's basement for free. I was going through a really difficult time in my life. I had just been diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I was broker than broke. I was like, how can you help me with what? Like I was at my rock bottom. And when I had this idea, she's the first person I thought of. So I called up Samantha and I said, I think I have an idea of how you can help me. She met with me, and it was just this place of like, she was serving me. She just wanted to help me. It was a most selfless act I still can have experienced till this day. And she gave me a list of people to contact, places to go, and we were off to the races. So I contacted my head coach at the time, Jessica, and I said, I'm going to do these events on the hill. You can come to some of them. You don't have to come to all of them. I know it's a time commitment, but I'd love to have you. And she ended up coming to every single event. And it went so well that summer that we had to extend the permits. And so this is how we knew we were on to something. So at the same time, it was healing myself from a personal standpoint. I was like, let's serve people. Let me stop consuming myself with my own problems and what's going on. Let me just give back. So at least I can start sharing lessons that I've learned. And every single Thursday, the community would show up. They'd bring their fitness mats. They would take some time for themselves, and they would show up. And then what started to happen were coaches kept coming to me. And we had one of my chief operating officer now, one of our head coaches, she biked up to the hill and said, what is this? I need to be a part of this. And so that was when the light bulb went off of, okay, we are onto something. We are a movement. Ended up partnering with National Health and Fitness Day. This is a nationwide movement to make Canada the fittest nation on earth. And we just joined forces and we started moving along. We then started partnering with some of the top wellness brands in the country so that we can bring healthy products, healthy brands into the homes of Canadians. And together we can start teaching them how to create this healthy, active lifestyle. So you want to think of it as a doing campaign rather than an awareness campaign. So we all know we need to move our bodies. We all know we need to take care of ourselves. But if you Google any of those things, it's wildly overwhelming. And so again, I thought if I'm still learning in this area, there's still a lot of people that are. So it was a lunchtime workout that turned into a movement. And now our goal is to move 1 million Canadians, and we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
That's really cool. And congratulations on the venture so far. And I'm sure there's a lot more to come. I have a million questions now after you stated that. But my first question is there a schedule? Are you going from like city to city? And I know the pandemic's a little bit different, but let's almost pretend that the pandemic doesn't exist. Is the structure where there's a schedule where you move from city to city, and the people who work for you, underneath you, with you, however you want to say it, come with you from city to city? Or do you hire trainers or coaches within that city to help you out?
Exactly. Yeah. So we actually are just wrapping up this weekend, the second certification for 2021. So we seek you out. So we find coaches who fulfill the messaging that we do, who are in their niche already, shining their own light. They're sharing their message. They're in front of community. They're doing what they do best. So we reach out to you and say, we'd love for you to be on our team. And so we host a certification to do that. So these are wellness practitioners, professionals, trainers, Zumba instructors, yoga instructors, like you name it, who just genuinely want to help Canadians. And so we reach out to them, some of them reach out to us. And so we host a certification and we all start collaborating together and working together to fulfill this message and this mandate. And then right now it's really cool because it's a hybrid and so virtual and in-person programming. And every single Thursday across the country, there will be an event. So right now we're in Vancouver, Halifax, where we will be in person. And then virtually we're across the country. So you can log in no matter where you are. We've got all time zones taken care of. So you can come move with us in whatever makes sense for you. So this is very much like an inclusive, feel good, high energy, move whatever way feels good for you type of environment. So by that, I mean, we've got a variety of different movements. We've got coaches who are showing different regressions and progressions. If you want to do jumping jacks, if you want to jog on the spot for 45 minutes, all workouts are 45 minutes. And it's genuinely just a place for you to come feel good, to do the whole workout, to do half the workout, to do whatever it is that feels good for you. So it's Thursdays, 12 Eastern. And movecamp.ca is where you can sign up for all the events right now. And we're right in the process right now of transitioning and getting this new message out of moving a million Canadians. So the Million Movers movement.
I think it's great too that you're helping people who are not necessarily like fitness freaks, right? And fitness experts. Fitness has gotten, it's to the level where everybody thinks there's only one way to do something, right? And it's their way in fitness, whether it's like, you have to do CrossFit, you have to lift heavy, you have to deadlift, you have to be a runner. Just getting people moving is the first step. And it's very important. And there's not a lot of people who are willing to say, you know what? I don't care what you're doing exactly. I just want you moving. I want to start the process. And then you'll eventually go down the road where you become a little bit more nuanced. But right now it's about just starting the process.
But that's just it. And so we work with such a variety of practitioners. So you see them on the movement sessions every Thursday. They each have a section. You see what they're about. You see their energy. And so that as a Canadian, as a move camper, you can say, oh, I really love row style. I love how Eve does his types of movement. So you can get access to all them. They all have their own type of programming, their own type of modalities. Maybe they have courses. Then you can start being a part of their community as well as a part of our community. And this is what I mean by saying we're built on collaboration. I genuinely just care if Canadians are part of their health and wellness process and if they're moving their bodies and if they feel good, whether that's with us, whether that's with you, whether that's with one of our coaches, I don't care. As long as they are genuinely moving and feeling good. My dream is to have people have the same experiences that I had growing up and feeling good, in moving my body because it's unbelievably gorgeous outside and I want to go have a picnic and a hike, because I want to fall in love with nature, because I want to take up a new sport, because I just want to spend some time with my friends, versus I need to get a six pack, I need to lose weight, I need to push myself, because most of the time in my experience, that doesn't feel good. And like you said, you can get to that place. We provide you with all of these resources, all of these practitioners, all of this education once you're a part of our community. And then you can choose for yourself how you want to take care of yourself, but you're a part of the process. So instead of just hearing, you need to walk 10,000 steps a day, and you need to get more sleep, and you need to take care of yourself. We know this. I don't buy into the messaging of, people are lazy. People they're not. I honestly believe it's because they don't have direction. They don't know where to turn to, and they don't feel good enough to actually take on that endeavor. They feel so full of shame and feel so awful because marketing is telling them you're a bad person for having let your health get here. So it's not really motivating to do something in that energy space. So we really try and create this culture where it's okay, and here is how you can actually do it, instead of making another suggestion. We make it a doing campaign.
Yeah. And you're right. People will naturally look at, the end of the road and say, how can I get there? It's too far down the road, where it's like, you have to start. You have to start from somewhere. And I think getting people to understand that long-term health and wellness should be the goal. So if you're 25 now and you want to be moving around and doing things into your 60s and 70s, you need to make sure that you're taking care of your body and doing all the right things to get you there, right? So people notice that later on in life. I will be 36 soon. Things are creaky just when you wake up in the morning. So it's more important that you're moving around, right? And that you have, of course, you can still have goals, right? From time to time, you still have these goals. But overall, I think you guys have a fantastic game plan of making sure that you hit all the different demographics and you're not just focused on one specific fitness goal.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to make sure we're being as authentic as we can, because those health concerns that I had back in 2015, there are lingering things that I'm personally still working through. So I don't want our community to look at us and say, even my head coach too, like they're so hardcore. My head coach she still coaches and was in fitness competitions, and we would joke around with her where we'd show up and watch Jess win. You know, she would just win. She'd step on stage and she'd win because she was incredibly good at it. But the same thing, she preaches making sure we get out for a walk every day. Like a goal that we all have on the team is to get outside every day. And most of my coaches and my internal team have children. So they want to make sure that they're leading as an example for them as well. And that's my dream one day as well. But we want to make sure that we're leading by example, and our community knows that we're not quote unquote hardcore. We just, some days we'll do a higher intensity workout. Some days we do Pilates, and some days we just get outside for a walk. And we're just creating that culture to make sure that people know that that's okay. That's normal.
Yeah, because it can be nerve-wracking for those. I mean, I worked when I first started out in the fitness industry, I worked at like a private training studio. I'd say it's mostly females between the age of 35 and 65. And, when they walked in, we had a sort of a survey for them to fill out why exactly they came here. And the first reason was, well, they thought it was, for beginners, or they thought it was female only, or they thought it was an older crowd, because they were nervous about jumping into the fitness game and having people, look at them and say, what are you doing here? Because it is, I mean, it's overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing. And I think you guys providing that, not only the workouts, but the education to say, hey, don't worry, we're going to start here. We have different levels, we have different trainers, and you'll get to your end goal eventually is fantastic. Now, I know you guys are a non-profit. Can you talk about the difficulties in working in the nonprofit sector or starting it, and any advice to other fitness professionals or health professionals who think they potentially want to go that route with a business?
Yeah, I do a lot of reading. I fell into, during that total experience, I started journaling a lot. I started reading, some of the greats, and became very spiritual. So just deciding to stay in this energy of, okay, if I white knuckle my way through life, I'm probably going to die at a really young age. And this concept of working hard and not taking care of myself and pushing, like harder, better, faster, stronger, is not working for me. So it was like this ultimate surrender, which didn't happen overnight. But was a process of diving into these books and doing a lot of journaling. So at the time, there was no business plan. There was no 5-year plan. There was no structure. It was like I said, this calling for me to go and take on this endeavor. Even when I tell this story all the time of when I was in grade 2, it was my teacher put out Careers Day. The whole school was doing Careers Day. And I showed up in a gymnastics outfit that my mom made me because I was going to be an aerobics instructor. And I remember getting ridiculed. My friends were showing up with top buns and glasses and briefcases, and they were all secretaries and professional people in offices. I was bouncing around the schoolyard in my aerobics outfit. And by the end of the day, I was the aerobics bimbo. But of all the bullying that went on for myself growing up, that was something that actually didn't get at me. It was more of fuel to keep going. And I always knew that this was something I was going to do. In my one and only job interview, they said, where did you see yourself in 5 years? And I was saying, doing something big, being in front of people, being in front of the community. So when we started it, it was just a passion it was a passion project. We wanted to just serve communities. And it wasn't until, like I said, when Lydia had biked up onto the hill, we started working with other brands, our title partner, Green Beaver, that we decided that this was going to be a thing. So it was probably around year 5, to be honest with you, where we said, let's make this a structured business. Let's, what we can do to actually make this an organization that changes Canadians and Canadian health. So I think the biggest thing I can say to anybody starting any type of endeavor, any business, is just follow your passion. And that sounds like such an after school special message, but anything that has ever been impactful in this world that we see, that we buy into now, that we bring into our homes, that we subscribe to, came from someone's heart center, came from someone's passion, someone's calling, someone sharing their light. And that's all that this has been. And the reason it's done anything it's done is because everybody has an opportunity to share their light and their messaging and their leadership, which again serves a greater community. So it was around that time. So taking that passion, and then actually, I was talking to Samantha about this yesterday, then putting in the work. So then putting in the structure. So putting your team together. So we built our accounting team, and we built our internal organization structure, and then created the plan of like, hey, where are we headed? We got our web team, we got our social team, and started putting the infrastructure around the passion. So if anything, like to move it, steered in any direction, it was always coming from that vision, first and foremost, that vision. And so the idea of turning the programming itself into not-for-profit just came from how it started. It was always a free event. It will always be a free event. So it just naturally made sense for us to transition into that realm and that world. It's not something that I had a lot of experience in. It's not something that I knew a lot about. But again, it's just coming from this place of giving our passion, serving our community, and just living from this place of joy and happiness and doing what we love. And so, there's some days, I'll be totally honest with you, I feel like I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go. And then there's other days where we're on it and we're on top of it, but it's always coming from that vision space. So any challenges specifically as it relates to not-for-profit or anything like that would maybe just be the experience that we're in right now. But it's not any different than I think any other business owner's challenges. I think if you're living from that place of passion and purpose, then everything you've figured out, there's a way through every block.
Yeah. And we all have that sort of imposter syndrome from time to time. Some days we wake up and we feel like we're going to be the number one business in the world. And some days you're like, should I just give up today? So, and then that's the norm. And I think to add to your sort of after school messaging speech, as you called it with the passion project, this never give up is what I would say, however cheesy that is, because, when you start these businesses, it's essentially a pyramid. There's a ton of people at the bottom who are also trying to do the same thing. And eventually it's not that sometimes they're not good at it. It's just that they give up, right? People give up. And then those businesses in your niche or in your genre, eventually there's only a few of them. And if you keep working at it, you will, the cream will rise to the top, and you have to stick with it. And it seems like, obviously with MoveCamp, you guys are past that point, right? Giving up is not there, but there is that point in that business where you say, I can turn in the other direction now. I can go back to what I was doing before. I can maybe, cap this off at what I'm doing now. And instead of making this MoveCamp Canada, I can just do it in Ottawa, right? Maybe I won't expand outward. There's all these sort of internal things you're going to be fighting with. And eventually you have to say, no, we're going for it. We're going all in.
Yeah. And I think it's just not having expectations and having those goals in mind, but then surrendering to what's happening, surrendering to understanding that, again, white knuckling it, trying to control it, saying we have to go this way isn't going to work. So as my job every day as CEO of this company is to be open and to be flexible and to know that I'm ready to receive whatever's going to come our way. So maybe that is, like last year, having to transition online. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we don't get outside to as many cities as we want to this year, or maybe we get out to more. There's a lot that you just have to be open to receiving and flexible. And I think the more you can practice doing that, so that's why I'm a huge advocate of meditation and journaling and reading, the more that you can do that, I think the more that you'll continue to move in the direction that you were meant to all along. So very similarly to how this got started, and the whole from the beginning was just because so I think if you continue to do that, and you of the utmost importance, make sure that you're remembering and you're keeping in mind of how you can serve the greater good. If that's your full purpose, then A, you should work with us, and B, I think that's what can help you continue to be successful.
Yeah, I think so too. And time will fly by that way. If you put your head down on the grind and your goal is simply that, to help as many people as I can, or to help the people the best I can, even if there's not a lot of people you're helping, time will fly by and things will build on their own naturally. Again, however cheesy all of this sounds, it's true, right? And you you have to put your head down and do the right thing. And the path will pave itself for you. So, speaking of meditation, do you use a meditation app? Have you gone on retreats? How exactly do you use meditation?
I have used the Insight Timer app. There's Sarah Blondin is I don't know what you'd call a practitioner, someone who puts her meditations on there. I love her. Her voice is just so soothing and calming. But now I'm very much a student of Marianne Williamson. She wrote several books. Right now, the one I'm obsessed with is called A Return to Love. So it's something that I read regularly every morning. She also has a book called Law of Divine Compensation. Highly recommend that book. Whether you're spiritual or not, just moving away from the business books that are so structured and that are all about doing and, pen and paper, moving away from that and just doing yourself a favor and learning from a different perspective. It's such an enlightening book if you're a business owner. Gabby Bernstein is someone I adore. I love her messaging. So that's someone who I study under a lot as well. And it's an ongoing practice, very much a morning routine that I have. I am obsessed with my morning routine. I'm sure you'll hear a lot of practitioners talk to you about this. It's like just so that I can have 2 hours to myself where I'm studying, where I'm learning, where I'm meditating. And I think especially during this pandemic, I went through a lot of personal challenges. My mom wasn't well this year. And then on top of everything that everybody else is going through, it was just kind of like, okay, this is what I'm going to fall back on because there is a plethora of things that I have no control over right now. So let's just get really grounded. And so I dove into it. So I'm sinking further and further and further into it. Untamed is a book that I'm obsessed with as well, Glennon Doyle. And she talks about finding your liquid gold, just sitting in this place where you just like smother yourself with your liquid gold of your knowing and moving closer to that. So it's actually provided a lot of comfort doing this morning routine and having this practice in the mornings, because it's the only thing I feel like you can really count on. You can really know that that's going to be there for you. And that can be a constant for you. So it truly is a life-changing practice.
Yeah. And much like fitness, it's not something that you ever finalize, right? You never get to the point where you're like, oh, I've maxed out on meditation. I don't need it anymore. Or like I've become this ultimate expert. You're going to be doing it for the rest of your life. It's going to change. And it's, to me, it's important that I use it again in my morning routines as well. And I think it's important that people understand it's not just about, for those who have an issue with this, like chakras and crystals and that sort of thing, right? So meditation can very much help you in a day-to-day, just if nothing else, calm down and calm some of those voices down in your head before you start the day. And I think there's a host of apps out there. I use something called the Waking Up app. I don't necessarily recommend that over another one, but I do think it's important that people give it a shot if nothing else. And I will say it's again, to give weird analogies, it's almost like quitting cigarettes when you start meditation, meaning it's probably going to take you four or five or six or seven times before you're actually sticking with it, right? You're going to quit meditation at some point and say, I don't get it. I'm not doing it. It's not working for me. But I'll tell you now, if you do start it, just stick with it because you're going to go back to it eventually.
And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. One of a dear friend of mine, who's a coach on our team as well, I remember him saying so distinctly, like, you don't have to learn how to meditate. You just sit there. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And for someone who is ridiculously A-type and a total perfectionist, that concept was just so calming to me. I was like, I don't have to work at this. I don't have to try. I can just it was incredibly liberating. And it's true. There's some days where you'll do it and you feel like what did that do? But it's a cumulative process. And you'll witness it show up in your life where you'll start to, things won't bother you as much, or you'll just be a lot more controlled in your thoughts, and that you don't find that you're wandering or that your ego is not grasping at things to try and obsess over. You are just you, and allowing and receiving and moving in that way that feels good for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is a cumulative process, much like fitness, right? You don't always have to look in the mirror the next day and say, I don't feel like my biceps are bigger. This is a wholesome approach, and you might not see the results instantly, but it ultimately it's helping you. If for nothing else, putting it into a routine and making sure that you have said routine is going to help you, right? Even if the meditation itself is secondary to starting a morning routine.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we're all put on this planet to serve and to shine our light in whatever way that makes sense for us. So I think MoveCamp is just about that, is just another example of how we're able to share our message and share our light, giving others permission to do that. We're all meant to do something on this planet, and mine has just so happened to be this. And I'm just ridiculously grateful and blessed to be able to do what I love to do every day, and that I get to be an aerobics instructor in front of thousands of people wearing my gymnastics outfits.
You knew it. Your second grade teacher, I think we should reach out to her now and all of your classmates and let them know that they were wrong.
Yeah. You probably know that. I'm pretty verbose.
So let's let everybody know where they can find more information about MoveCamp, where they can get to it virtually, where they can sign up to potentially be a coach if they're in the area, and any other information.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I would love to hear from you if you would love to serve our community with us. movecamp.ca/movecert is where you can learn more about our certification program. You can also, so once you're a part of our community, you sign up for an event. Movecamp.ca is where you can sign up, learn about the program. Once you're in our community, you can gain access to Move Collective. So movecollective.co. So this is our healthy hub for education experiences and events across the country. So Move Collective is our parent company. Once you're in there, MoveCamp's our flagship event. We have Move Corporate, which is our corporate division, where we work with different organizations and employees and staff to help them stay healthy. Move Cert is our certification program. Move Con is our end of series conference and celebration, where we're fortunate enough now, even virtually, to work with practitioners and speakers across the country, some incredible speakers. So you're just really part of this ecosystem that is supporting you and helping you with resources to create a healthy, active lifestyle. So once you're a part of our community, so movecamp.ca to RSVP for an event, you're automatically a part of our entire membership program.
Check out the MoveCamp sites. I'll list all the information below the podcast on all the different platforms. Mia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been a blast.